Hallo, herzlich willkommen bei Schieders Melange. Wir sind nach vielen Monaten von Corona wieder auch zurück bei unserem Melange-Format und ich habe heute einen ganz besonderen Gast, nämlich Tanja Fajon. Sie ist die neue Vorsitzende unserer slowenischen Schwesterpartei und auch die Chefin der größten Oppositionspartei in unserem südlichen Nachbarland, wo politisch mit der Regierung viel Arges passiert. So, hello Tanja, we switch into English.
Hello Andreas.
So I introduced you, since 3 weeks, you are leader of the Social Democratic Party in Slovenia.
Right, I would say 2 weeks, 2 good weeks. I'm not official leader, I'm now an acting leader. But I do expect that we'll hold a congress in autumn and I will of course run and hopefully also get the full mandate.
And maybe you can explain us what happened before, because there was a internal political in the state change, and Janez Janša, who was already prime minister 2 times, I think.
Yes, right.
And he always lost his prime ministership because of corruption, is now again prime minister.
It's true. It's his 3rd term. It's now, during the weekend, he will have 100 days of his government. And I wouldn't say it was the reason, the corruption, but quite often his government got into difficulties. He's very particular, I would say, and he quickly loses his partners, or he is not in the position. He won from one of the previous elections, and he didn't manage to form the government. No one, not a single political party, wanted to go in the coalition with him. Now he is a prime minister for almost 100 days. He has 3 coalition partners that are very weak political parties. So I would say that the government is not that strong, and he's in fact with his acts daily or weekly also weakening his coalition partners. He's using often on social media or in public intimidation, attacks on journalists, very negative or dangerously populist rhetorics like Trump language, which it's to surprise of all of us. We have every weekend or every Friday evening in capitals of our city and other cities, many people that are protesting against the government, against certain corruption affairs we had during the pandemic with buying medical equipment and so on. So it's not that he is enjoying strong support, but yeah, it's unstable, I would say.
This demonstration, by the way, they are mostly on bicycle, no?
They were on bicycles in Ljubljana. At some point on Fridays, you will be impressed. You could see thousands of people on bicycles peacefully protesting against the government. Now, the last Friday, they came without bicycles. There were quite a lot of people, really a lot, not only in Ljubljana, also in the other cities. And they are calling for the government to step down. There were some affairs during, as I said, pandemic.
But this is, let's say, a record. No? After 100 days already have a regular protest against you is not a good record for a prime minister.
Absolutely not a good record. And we all know, that Janez Janša, if I'm critical, and I dare to be critical, is taking Slovenia away from core EU member states. He wrote a lot of letters to Brussels recently that were, in a way, he was abusing the position of the president of the country, pushing forward the interests of his political party, saying the journalism in Slovenia is bad, attacking the independent judiciary, putting a very negative image of Slovenia abroad, and people are angry for that.
And he also used the pandemic in order to, let's say, get more power as regular. No, he was trying to make the military stronger and give them some police responsibility, which...
It's true. It's true, but I have to recognize one thing, that Slovenia went very well through the pandemic. We had very low cases of deaths. We very quickly had measures, and I would say it was due to citizens, because we really respected well all the measures that were in place. Not all the measures were good, that certainly traveling from one commune to another was forbidden. These were quite some nonsenses. But we went well through the first wave. I do hope now we have a bit more affected people again when the borders are open. But you are right, he tried, or the government tried in the beginning, introduce some repressive measures. They tried to give more authorities to the army at the outside borders without any arguments that we have, for example, higher number of illegal crossings. In the opposite, we had a lower one. They in fact wanted to put maybe police away from the borders inside the country to do more repressive measures, more control of the citizens. They didn't manage so far with these measures, but we see the efforts are there. We recently had one incident that the Slovene soldiers at the border with Italy used a weapon against one Italian who was walking on a free zone, and used more in defense, not really use it, but threatened to the guy. Later they apologized, and now it's an investigation because the army doesn't have these authorities.
So, but we can, not to speak too longly because I think he's not worth, but he's a mixture of Trump in the behavior towards the media and a little mixture also of, let's say, Orban. Huh?
This is what worries and surprises me at the same time, because he could have a very strong and peaceful ruling in a way, with a rather strong government. And I know Slovenia will take over the presidency in the second half of next year, and I know that he had already an experience on the top of EU presidency, and he did it well. So that is why I'm difficult to understand why he's putting so much anger or so much spreading this language of hate, if I say, or attacks on journalism, on public national TV. Why he's doing that, and also weakening his coalition partners, not telling them all his correspondence with Brussels or foreign institutions, because one could see that he wants to destroy them, and this doesn't make a logic, outcome of his being prime minister. So it's difficult to understand all moves he is doing.
But also, Slovenia is a small country, but let's say a very open country, because you have seaside, you have the Alps, you are somewhere in the middle of Europe. The country plays a major role on several issues. Also, isn't it weird to have such an anti-European prime minister? Because it would be the opposite, the success story, no? To be pro-European.
I wouldn't say he's anti-European, and I wouldn't like to deal so much about him, but he's certainly more keen to, he's a big admirer of Orban, and he's more keen to Visegrad countries like Hungary, Poland, and these are countries we know that are not respecting the fundamentals of EU. So he's taking us away from this core Europe. And while we know that our economy in Slovenia depends from Austria, from Germany, from Scandinavian countries, and this is also the danger. We saw in the last few weeks quite some articles in the foreign press that are marking or putting the label on Janša that he is Orban, copy. And also in Economist, that is not a leftist business magazine. Once you read that, you can worry what does it mean in ratings for the country in economic terms. So certainly nothing positive.
But then you are the new leader of the opposition, and as we can read, also the opinion polls already went up. So you are seen as the hope also for, let's say, for the future of the country. What are the proposals of the Slovenian left liberal movement, of yourself for the future of the country? So what do you think is the major importance?
First of all, I really want to lead with a different example. That means we need to work together on the left opposition side, because we are now very fragmented. And if we don't work together, with ideas that are good for our countries, we will never succeed also in the next elections. As Social Democrats, we are now the second political party in the country. We doubled, in fact, our support in the last 2 weeks, which is, of course, giving a lot of hope, but at the same time, the expectations are really high. I am very much aware that Slovenia will have difficult times economically, socially. A lot of people are losing jobs. They fear what will happen after pandemic. We will lose, of course, a lot of money and business that will go down. So we'll have to focus really how to boost the economy. Not with austerity, but how to get money to finance companies to survive and open jobs and keep the jobs. And that we also think strategically in the long term, that we develop jobs that go in line with environment, that will preserve also our environment. And what pandemic proved, that public sector is very important. So we'll have to focus on public health system, public infrastructure, public education, and so on. So there are quite some challenges ahead of us. Not easy for any government, but we will also very much depend from European solidarity.
But because you mentioned this future orientation of the economy, and Slovenian economy always was extremely innovative, no, in using new fabrics and new materials. When we think about, let's say, Melange ski factory, for example, is one of the
Pipistrel, one of the very good companies, yeah.
So you have a lot. I think this must be also the way, no, to help them, because probably economy is weak down, but to invest in future innovation.
Absolutely, and we have very strong sector for when you talk about innovation. Technology, we are good in that, but we'll have to focus on industries where are sustainable in the long run. For example, now in the crisis, we saw our textile industry is extremely weak. If we would be stronger, we could maybe make our own masks and so on. So we will have to do more on these industries where we are good and less dependent from the others. Automobile industry, where we very much depend from German market. Now we are in the middle of this chain, so we don't. We are not at the beginning nor at the final product, so we will be quite hit. And our companies will also have to find themselves how to make this transformation on their side, and also what the state can help them.
So maybe. Because I was thinking now, also tourism is one issue for Slovenia.
Yeah, right.
Slovenia is already on the side of sustainable, environmental, green tourism. And I just was thinking, that's why I was a little bit absent, because if you want to follow Tanja on social media, she is very active on Instagram and others, and then you can see also the beautiful sides of Slovenian country, because you are doing a lot of hiking and other sports. So this could be also, I know that Austrian Prime Minister wants us all to stay in Austria for the summer, but if you sneak over the Alps, also it is very nice in Slovenia.
I do hope that the borders will remain open. I was last weekend in Lake Bohinj, and I was surprised to see how many tourists came in a weekend. It was really a lot of Austrians, Germans coming across, and Slovenia, I mean the tourism in Slovenia suffers a lot, and we will have to somehow reboost it, give a new energy to tourism. It's very important the tourists are coming. And Slovenia, in my eyes, is seen as, a boutique tourism, for a small, not prestige, but maybe more selective guests. We have very beautiful spots, good gastronomy. Now our Anna Roche just won 2 Michelin stars. So we are now in the region
the best
cooking woman worldwide. And now also Slovenia is on the map in culinary and gastronomy. So we are very attractive for tourism, and it's something that we have to also invest our efforts.
Maybe I say thank you, Tanja, for coming here. Also, she, as a new, extremely fresh leader, but probably we will have had her talk also maybe with the future Prime Minister of Slovenia, which is good, but we wish you all the luck.
Thank you.
Why we invited also Tanja immediately is there is a lot of interest in Austrian politics, what's going on in Slovenia, and we have also just to tell at the end, between our parties, good relation, especially in the region between Carinthia and Slovenia, but also on federal level. So therefore, thank you, Tanja, for coming in. All the best for the future, and have a nice summer also.
Thank you very much. Same to you.
Yeah, thank you.